The Six Nations has just concluded, so it's only right that we have a look at the British and Irish Lions squad. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down who I think should make the British and Irish Lions squad. Now, bear in mind, this is coming from a Springbok fan, so take that with a little bit of a pinch of salt. If you haven't, if you're new around here, please hit that subscribe button, leave this video a like, and as always, drop me your opinions down in the comments. Let's get into it. So we're going to be putting together a 37-man squad for the British and Irish Lions tour to Australia. That's what they did back in 2021 when they came to South Africa and played in that competition. The way I'm going to break it down is exactly the same way that they broke it down for that tour. 6 props, 3 hookers, 5 locks, 7 loose forwards, 3 scrum halves, 3 fly-offs, 4 centers, and then 6 back 3 players. Now, obviously, some of these players will be utility players that can play lock or loose forward, or they can play in the back 3 and fly off or center. The competition for these British and Irish Lions spots are hot at the moment, and obviously some players are injured, so I will be speaking about that a little bit. But I mean, England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland have been pretty good in the Six Nations, maybe barring Wales. So let's get into it, starting off with the props. So starting off with the props, I've broken them down into England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. Starting with England, Ellis Genge, Finn Baxter, and Will Stewart are probably the front runners there. Finn Baxter might be a little bit inexperienced and young to go on a British and Irish Lions tour. I do think he is a wildcard option if Andy Farrell does want to pick him. But the two guys you're probably looking at there is Ellis Genge and Will Stewart. But I will come back to my selections as we go through Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. Now for Ireland, you got a couple of guys there. Andrew Porter is sort of their main man in the prop position. Obviously, we're looking at loose and tight heads here. Tadhg Furlong, also so much experience and should potentially be making the squad. It's just a matter of fact of if he has had enough game time over the last couple of months. He was injured for the majority of the Six Nations, but came back in that last game. Scotland, you got Piers Schoeman and Xander Ferguson, who are probably the front runners there, which are the front runners there. And then Wales, I don't think there's going to be too many Wales players in this side. Maybe it's just a handful, 3 or 4. But I don't really see many of them making it in the prop position. So for me, from a South African, I'm going to go for Ellis Genge from England. I'm going to go for Will Stewart. I think Finn Baxter just misses out. I'm going to go for Andrew Porter and Tadhg Furlong. I just think Tadhg Furlong brings that sort of experience. Finlay Bealham, for me, just misses out. And there is obviously an argument to take him with on the plane. As always, let me know what you guys think down in the comments if you think I've got it right or wrong. And then the last two props that I'm going to be taking is Piers Schoeman, who is a South African. We'll just leave that to hang there, and Xander Ferguson. So I think that's a very, very strong, well-balanced, experienced sort of setup in that front row for the British and Irish Lions. I mean, you've got so much experience and so much experience to come off the bench as well. Moving into the hooker position. Now, I do think there's a couple of standouts here that are obvious choices for me, but I'm going to run through them. For England, we got Luke Cowan-Dickie, who played for the Lions 4 years ago and has been pretty solid for England thus far. Theo Dan, Jamie George, so much experience for Jamie George, also played 4 years ago. Then for Ireland, the two standouts there are definitely Dan Sheehan and Ronan Kelleher. And then Scotland, we got Dave Cherry, who is the main man for Scotland and could potentially get in there. Whether he's done enough, I'm not too sure. And then Wales, the big talking point for the Lions tour is Dewey Lake. Now, he's definitely in with a shout. He's an absolute powerhouse for that Wales side and one of their best players in my opinion. But I think for hookers, the fact that we can only take 3, it's a very, very difficult choice, right? I think Dan Sheehan is that number 1 pick who should be starting for the Lions, so I'm going to take him with. Luke Cowan-Dickie is also there and thereabouts. I just, for me, just don't think he's going to make it. I'd rather take Jamie George, who's a little bit more experienced. He's got some good leadership qualities. And if we're talking about captaincy, you're probably looking at someone like Maro Itoje. So it would be nice for Maro Itoje to have someone like Jamie George to lean on in the change room. And then that third spot is going to go to Dewey Lake for me, who's an absolute powerhouse for that Welsh side. He's propelled up in contention recently. And I think it's good to give him a run. I think he definitely deserves that Lion spot. Just the experience that Dewey Lake is going to get under the likes of a Dan Sheehan and a Jamie George is going to be phenomenal for his career. So for me, I'm going to go with Dewey Lake in that third spot. Next, moving into the lock position. Now, as Springbok fans, we know that this lock position and loose forward is always very, very difficult to pick in the Springbok side. And it's no different with the British and Irish Lions because they have so much depth in that 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 jersey that you could almost take anyone and they'd be able to compete against Australia. Now, we can pick 5 locks. Some of them might be utility. 1 or 2 of them could sort of fill that 4-5 jersey or the 6, 7, and 8 jersey. So I think the selection around that is going to be very interesting to see what Andy Farrell goes for. But England, I mean, you obviously got Ollie Chesham, Moro Itoje, who's been absolutely phenomenal and looks like he's sort of playing the best rugby of his career at the moment. He's really come into his own, and his name is definitely in the hat for captain of this British and Irish Lions side. George Martin, and then you look at the Irish locks. Ty Byrne, Joe McCarthy, James Ryan, just experience on experience. For Scotland, their lock depth is a little bit weak. Johnny Gray played 4 years ago, maybe has a shot. I mean, Scott Cummings maybe has a shot, but for me, not really. Then you've got Wales. Dafford Jenkins has definitely been the pick of the Welsh locks for me. So you've got a lot of experience. You've got a couple of new guys coming through, but I don't really think they can go too wrong with the lock selections. For me, I'm going to go James Ryan from Ireland. I mean, Ryan's line-out expertise and physical presence are vital components for that Irish second row. So I think he can bring that into the Lions. Ty Byrne, I mean, his ability to play both lock and flanker, that utility player to switch around and give them a couple of options. Maybe he comes off the bench in a 6-2 split will be invaluable. So he makes the plane for me. Moro Itoje, 110% is starting and potentially captain for me. Ollie Chesham, I think Chesham's emergence as a reliable lock option for England is what's going to get him there, and I think he's definitely only selection. If you look at that pairing between Moro Itoje and Ollie Chesham, you can't go too wrong with that. And then that last pick, right? You could go for Joe McCarthy, you could go for a couple of those guys, but I do think they're going to take a risk and go for Dafford Jenkins, who has potential, and his ability to cover multiple roles make him a very strategic choice. He has been the man for Wales as well. So for me, I'm going to take a risk and go for Dafford Jenkins in that 5th spot. Then moving into the back row, and I think a lot like Springbok Rugby, where we have so much depth in that 6, 7, and 8 jersey, the Lions have so much depth in these positions. And again, I think you could pick any 3 guys to really start from either of the teams and they will do fine. There's just so much depth. I mean, England, Ben Curry, Tom Curry, Cunningham South, who's been absolutely phenomenal. Ben Earl, the magician. Courtney Laws, I just don't know if they're going to need Courtney Laws. He is playing in France at the moment. He could potentially be that utility forward as well, but I just don't think they're going to need him. You've got Henry Pollock coming through, who scored I think he scored in that on his debut over the weekend. Tom Willis, Jack Willis, Sam Underhill. That's just England. I mean, then you look at Ireland and you got Jack Conan, Caelan Doris, who also definitely has his hand up for Lions captain. Peter O'Mahony, who has just retired, and this could be quite a nice send off for him. Josh van der Fleer, who won Player of the Year, I think it was last year or the year before that. Then you got Scotland, Rory Dodge, who's sort of burst onto the scene, having a very, very good season. Jack Dempsey, Jamie Ritchie has been phenomenal for Scotland. And then Wales, the main man for them has been Jack Morgan. So, like I said, you could probably pick either or. You can't really go wrong with a combination from those names. So it's going to be very difficult to sort of pick 7 guys to take over. I'm just going to say something about Jack Willis. I think he's very, very good at the breakdown, but because he's playing overseas, I think Andy Farrell might favor the players who are playing in England, Scotland, Wales, etc. So I think Jack Willis could be on the plane to Australia, but they might just put him on the replacement list in case one of those guys who are playing local rugby get injured. But his name, there definitely is a debate and a conversation to be had where the Jack Willis goes. So for me, I'm going to go for Ben Earl. I think he's just so versatile across that back row. He makes valuable decisions. He's a good leader, and we've seen how good he's been for England, so he's definitely there. Tom Curry, known for his work rate and defensive prowess. I think Curry is a mainstay in that back row. Ben Earl and Tom Curry are going to cause some havoc. Caelan Doris, you cannot leave him out for Ireland. Been playing so well on that run Ireland's been on over the last sort of 2 years. It has sort of been led by Caelan Doris. I'm also going to go with Jack Conan from Ireland, and I'm going to go for an outside pick and pick Josh van der Fleer from Ireland as well. I think he's a class player. Yes, maybe been a little bit under the radar this year, but I think what he brings to the game, his impact on the field is invaluable for the Lions, and he's going to be sort of my outside pick there to go on the plane. Jack Morgan has been phenomenal for Wales. He's a massive ball carrier and can also sort of switch around 7, 6, 8. So he's definitely on the plane for me, and then Jamie Ritchie will finish the back row. 7 for me and potentially even captain the side. Then we get into the back line. Now, starting off with the scrum offs. I love speaking about the back line because I am a 10 at trade. So for me, scrum offs, I mean, there's a lot to choose from here. Alex Mitchell has been great for England. For Ireland, Jamison Gibson-Park, Conor Murray are definitely on the list. Jamison Gibson-Park, one of the best nines in my opinion in the world at the moment. You got Ben White, who's been a standout for Scotland, and then Wales, you got Thomas Williams, who's been a standout for them and makes massive impact on the game for that Welsh side. Now, for me, this is very difficult because I think there's 4 possibilities for the scrum of position. It's Thomas Williams, Jamison Gibson-Park, Ben White, and then Alex Mitchell. So one of them has to miss out. Now, a lot of the England purists will say that Alex Mitchell deserves a shot on that plane. But for me, I just don't think he's going to make it. I'm going to go Jamison Gibson-Park. I'm going to go Thomas Williams from Wales. And then I'm going to go for Ben White from Scotland to make up my 3 scrum offs for the Lions tour. And then we move over into the fly-off position. Now, for England, there's a couple of options and a couple of very good options. You do have Owen Farrell. Now, is Andy Farrell going to pick his son when he's not playing in England? It's going to be interesting to see. You got George Ford, who kind of fell out of favour this year with England, but we did see him in that last test match. Then Finn Smith and Marcus Smith have really been doing the job. For Ireland, we got Jack Crowley and Sam Prendergast sort of battling for that number 10 position in the Irish jersey. But don't forget about Kieran Frawley, who really hurt the Springboks in Durban last year with that last minute drop goal to pinch that game by 1 point for the Irish. So those 3 for Ireland are very good fly-offs. Is Sam Prendergast ready for a British and Irish Lions tour? I don't think so. Is Jack Crowley good enough? I'm also not too sure about that. Scotland, you got their main man, Finn Russell. Wales, Jared Evans has definitely been the standout for me for the fly-offs for that Welsh side. But picking 3, I mean, you got to go with Finn Russell. He's the main man. He's probably going to start the majority of those test matches. And I think he's sort of nailed down as the British and Irish Lions 10. And then you got 2 other 10s that you're going to take. Is it going to be an Irish 10? Is it going to be a couple of England 10s? For me, I'm going to go for Finn Smith. He really impressed me in the Six Nations. He's a young fly-off. His temperament doesn't feel like he's just sort of burst onto the scene, which is a great quality to have as a fly-off. When the pressure's on, you can deliver. So Finn Smith for me definitely goes. And then Marcus Smith goes for me as well. He can also sort of be that utility backline player that can play 10, can play 15, and really switch it up, come off the bench, play multiple positions. So it is a risk taking both Smiths, but for me, I'm going to go Finn Russell, Finn Smith, and Marcus Smith. Then we move over into the centres. Now, there's a couple of good centres floating around Irish rugby, English rugby, and Scottish rugby. So for England, I do think Ollie Lawrence was probably their top man before he got injured. Tommy Freeman has been making a name for himself in the Six Nations this year. Ireland, I mean, you can't look any further than Bundy Aki, Robbie Henshaw, and Gary Ringrose. That is just quality on quality. Scotland, I mean, their main man has been Tupoloto. Obviously, he is injured at the moment, so whether he's going to be ready for the British and Irish Lions tour is going to play a role in if he gets selected or not. Hugh Jones and Tom Jordan have also been phenomenal. And then for Wales, Ben Thomas is probably the man. I don't see too many other Welsh players sort of getting a look for that centre position. So my 4 centres, I'm just going to start off with Hugh Jones. Jones' recent form and ability to break the fence is so good. And I mean, having an outside centre like Hugh Jones with that experience is going to be very handy in that Lions side. Tupoloto for me does make the plane if he is fit, but if he doesn't make the plane, I would just substitute him with Tom Jordan, who I think has been playing some phenomenal rugby for Scotland. Bundy Aki, you just can't look past his power in that midfield. And I mean, if you've got Tupoloto and you've got Bundy Aki in a team, doesn't matter which one's starting, they're both going to be absolute battering rams down the middle of the field. And then Gary Ringrose, he's renowned for his defensive organization. He really sort of manages that backline. Almost think of like a Jesse Creel, who is very good on defense in that 13 channel. Gary Ringrose is right up there. And I think that is a dangerous centre combination in those 4 players. I mean, you've got Finn Russell. You could have a Scottish 10, 12, 13. So it's going to be very dangerous. They've already got the chemistry, and those 4 guys make the plane for me. And then we finally look at the back 3. 2 wings and a fullback. I'm going to pick 6 players, so 4 wings and 2 fullbacks, and maybe there's a utility backline player in there. But if we look at England, Elliot Daly, maybe on the waiting list for that utility purpose, but he's been a little bit flat lately. Fawa Beso is injured and was probably going to go on the Lions tour if he didn't get injured. Tommy Freeman, like I said, can cover that 13 position as well, can play 15 wing wherever you want him. Furbank, Ollie Slighto, Marcus Smith, we've already mentioned, Freddie Stewart. So there's a lot of very, very good ranks in that English setup. Then you got Ireland. I mean, Mac Hansons, James Lowe, Jamie Osborne, Hugo Keenan have been really good. Darcy Graham from Scotland, Duan van der Merwe, Carl Steyn, Blair Kinghorn. And then for Wales, I think the standout dark horse 15 that could potentially get selected is Blair Murray. Is that going to happen? Probably not, but he does have an outside chance. So for me, the back three, it almost picks itself, right? Blair Kinghorn has been one of he is one of the best 15s in world rugby at the moment. He is such a good rugby player, and he's versatile across the backline as well. He can sort of play anywhere, and I think that's a very, very good trait to have. You think of a Damien Willemse, can play 15, 10, 12, wherever you want him. He's going to make the plane. I'm going to go for Hugo Keenan as well. Very, very reliable presence in that fullback position. You can go for Freddie Stewart, but I just don't think they're going to be playing that aerial game. Freddie Stewart is very, very good under the high ball, but I just don't see him making the team because I just don't think they're going to go for that strategy. And then the wings kind of pick themselves. I mean, Duan van der Merwe has to be an absolute battering ram for that Scottish side. James Lowe has been in phenomenal form. Darcy Graham for Scotland as well. You sort of got Duan van der Merwe, who's the brawn. You got Darcy Graham, who's sort of the speed and agility. And then my final player will be Tommy Freeman, who is emerging as a very, very promising talent. Can sort of play 15 wing wherever you kind of want him. He's very, very good, and I definitely think he makes the plane to Australia. So there you have it. It's my 37-man British and Irish Lions squad. If you enjoyed that video, please let me know. Let me know your opinions down in the comments. Leave this video a like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.